course, to return to the topic, I mean, what I'm basically saying, I mean, of course, I've been taught. I mean, of course, I mean, compared to what these Islamo-Fascists do to the Jews and want to do to the Jews, compared to that, this Christian right is peanuts. I mean, it's peanuts. I mean, it's like, I mean, it's like, I mean, I think that these, I mean, the American, I mean, the liberals in the American Jewish community, I think, make a too big effort on the Christian right, and then maybe on some fringe nuts there who basically, of course, and then all that, and they make a bigger deal on them, than they do on like Islamo-Fascists who basically want to who basically are leading the genocidal terror struggle on Jews in their own historic homeland. But I mean, of course, like with I mean, I mean, I mean, the liberals in the American Jewish community make a bigger deal. They make a bigger deal on like the Christian right than they do on the fact that, of course, that Jews are constantly being persecuted in Muslim and Arab countries. I mean, many of them were. I mean, of course, I mean, Israel, of course, observed the Jews who lived in the Arab Muslim world for centuries. They lived there for centuries, and then they were being persecuted, attacked, and driven out, of course. And then it was Israel that, of course, it had to, of course, absorb them. Basically, that they do all it can to try to absorb them. I even putting them, of course, temporarily in tents until they get them in the proper housing, basically. And I mean, and you see, and that's for the Jews who remain in Arab and Muslim countries. They have to deal with persecution daily and with attacks daily, and basically, basically, they have to deal with all of that. They have to deal with all of that daily, basically. And yet, and the reason why is not from the Christian right. It's not from the Christian right. It's from the genocidal dominant currents in the Arab and Muslim world. I mean, you don't see guys like the vile anti-Semite David Duke. I mean, you don't see him, of course, having a popular show on Fox News, but you see Yusuf Qaradawi, who is an anti-Semite, who supports suicide bombings on Israel, who is a vile Islamo-fascist scholar. I mean, he has a popular show on Al Jazeera. He's the spiritual guy of the Muslim Brotherhood, which is a vile Islamo-fascist movement. He also helps run a prominent Islamic website known as IslamOnline.net. I mean, what he said was that Hitler and all the suffering Jews put up with was a punishment meant that Jews had to deal with for their alleged corruption. That's what Yusuf Qaradawi said. I mean, he is notorious for supporting suicide bombings on Israel. He's notorious for supporting suicide bombings on Israel, the historic homeland of the Jewish people. He's notorious for supporting suicide bombings on Israel. And I mean, the situation is insane. I mean, it's insane. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, we should focus on the actual threats and not on not on like a group of people wanting to, of course, maybe emphasize some Christian values here and there, of course. But of course, they publicly say that this nation was founded on a Judeo-Christian, the country was founded on Judeo-Christian principle, which is true. America was founded on Judeo-Christian principles, and Christian Zionists are in the forefront. They're in the forefront in actually the promoting improved relations between the U.S. and Israel. They're in the forefront on that. I mean, many of these so-called evangelical Christians, I mean, they're Christian Zionists who of course are strong, enthusiastic supporters of Israel. I mean, these guys aren't a threat. These guys, of course, are actually, these guys are actually allies of Jews. I think it's pretty ridiculous for us to, of course, like focus on like, for us to like focus on like, or to for us to be so militantly opposed to the Christian right, like so, well, not militantly as in shooting to be, but to be so strongly opposed to the Christian right, and then to be advocates for suicidal concessions to the genocidal Arab Muslim world, to be to be like for suicidal concessions. Like for example, I think it's just, I think it's just ridiculous because, I mean, the the the, for, the forces Israel's fighting the genocidal Arab Muslim world are the ones who really are anti-Semitic, who really do want to who really do want to kill Jews, and all that. I mean, you don't see the Christian right sending suicide bombers into killing Jews, but you see Hamas does it. Has Hezbollah, Hamas did it. Hezbollah did it. I mean, of course, sending suicide bombers is not a tactic Palestinian terrorists gave up, but they were unable. But fortunately, Israel's better at stopping them, largely because of the controversial but justified security fence. And it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense for us to be so opposed to the Christian right, and then to be all for suicidal concessions to, of course, to the Palestinians, even though those territorial concessions won't result in the good, decent Palestinians taking control of them, but in Palestinian terrorists taking control of them, and in the terrorist genocidal Palestinian leadership taking control of them, because the Palestinian Authority, of course, because the Palestinian Authority is really a terror entity that wants to see Israel destroyed, make no mistake about it, and they just want to, of course, acquire them the legal way in order to fulfill the 1974 PLO phase plan, which is to get any territory Israel leaves or Israel withdraws from, and then they use that to continue the terror struggle until Israel is destroyed, and until the genocidal goal of destroying Israel is achieved, until the genocidal goal on Israel's Jewish majority is achieved. So this is a message to many liberals in the American Jewish community to basically wake up, and actually understand who the real enemies are, basically, like, because the Christian right is not any real enemy. They don't pose any threat to Jews. But the Islamo-Fascists do, because they're in the forefront promoting anti-Semitism. Of course, they're in the forefront promoting this anti-Semitism along with the radical anti-American left, which basically hates Israel as well, and which is in the forefront in promoting this demented idea of Israel being a Nazi state. So this situation is just insane.